There's a lot of Caleb Williams rumors out there, and we are here to discuss it all here on Chicago Bears Now. My name is Harrison Graham. Why are we talking about Caleb Williams? Well, the Bears hold the number one pick, and whether you're Team Justin Fields, Team drafted quarterback, there's going to be buzz about drafting a quarterback until the Bears shut it down or confirm that that's what they're going to do. So it's my job to talk about everything out there. He apparently is debating whether or not to actually declare for the draft, saying that he could still return to USC. Now, this is what he said shortly after the season, which was a disappointing one for the Trojans. He said, "I've never been in this situation where I'm 7-5 and there are no playoff hopes at the end of the season. I'm dealing with it emotionally, dealing with it spiritually and physically." And in an interview with the LA Times, he was asked, "Hey, are you going to declare for the NFL draft?" And he apparently was quoted saying, "It's a game time decision." Now, NFL draft eligible prospects have until January 15th to officially declare for the NFL draft. And I got to be honest, this would shock me. I would be shocked if Caleb Williams said, "You know what? Even though at worst I'm going top 3 in this NFL draft, life-changing money on the table, draft stock probably can't really improve since I do have a good chance of going number 1 overall." I'd be shocked if he went back to USC with all those things on the table. Part of me would kind of respect it, like, hey, he talked about last year how he wants to compete for and win a national championship and obviously fell way short. So you only get a couple years in college as an athlete to have a chance to do that. So I would respect it in a sense, but this would have major draft ramifications and major ramifications for the Chicago Bears. You look at his career, starting at Oklahoma and then following his head coach Lincoln Riley to USC, the numbers speak for themselves. Now, this year, I think he hit a bit of a lull. He still produced at a high rate. I think the losing got to him a little bit because he's never lost at any level. He's always been a very big winner and a competitive guy. So I think that's probably been tough to navigate and why he's potentially looming on this decision. I still think he's going to go pro because he is likely to be the top pick, if not the second or third pick in this draft. But it's certainly interesting nonetheless to hear him say, yeah, it's a game time decision right now. Now, will Caleb Williams declare for the draft or not? Type Y for yes or type N for no. I still got to believe he's going to turn pro. There's just too much to lose if you're Caleb Williams. So I'm going to type my Y for yes. Now, obviously, if the draft were today, the Bears would hold the top selection and would be heavily linked to Caleb Williams, Drake Maye as well, Marvin Harrison Jr., rumors about trading down. I think all of that is still on the table. Bears have the 4th pick as well, with Arizona, New England, and Washington currently in the top 5 as we're about 2/3 of the way through the NFL season. Now, if Caleb Williams were to stay at USC, this drastically changes your approach if you're Ryan Poles and the Bears, because at that point, a couple of things to consider. One, I think some people, without really thinking it through, would say, well, the number 1 pick would lose value, so maybe trading down wouldn't have as much value. I actually think it might increase, especially if Drake Maye has a strong pre-draft process. If Caleb Williams is out of the mix, well, teams can't trade up to 1 or 2 to get Williams or Maye. They'd have to go all the way to 1 to ensure they get Drake Maye, so the value of that pick could even go up. But for the Bears side of it, not only for trade value standpoint, but also a decision at quarterback standpoint, then it's just Drake Maye or Justin Fields. Like, I like Jaden Daniels a lot. He's moving up draft boards. Dane Brugler, who we're going to get into his mock draft here in a little bit, has Daniels going number 7 overall. He's not in that discussion, at least right now, with Caleb Williams and Drake Maye. Maybe he enters it if Williams goes back to school with Drake Maye. But at that point, if you're Ryan Poles, you're asking yourself, okay, am I rolling with Justin Fields or am I drafting Drake Maye? That's really the decision at that point. It's not even a 3-person decision if Caleb Williams goes back to school. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. I'm still going to give it about an 85% chance he declares for the draft, but who knows? I mean, until he does, and if he keeps talking like this, then maybe a return to college is still on the table. Now, join Chicago Bears now as rumors are heating up. The offseason's going to be lit. Bears are 4-8 now. They're not completely dead this season, although it would take quite the climb to get out of this hole that they've created for themselves. We got videos every single day. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on the notifications. That way you never miss a video here on Bears Now. Okay. let's talk more about Caleb Williams. Could they draft him number 1 overall? Well, Dane Brugler of The Athletic, my personal favorite draft analyst, he released his first mock draft, and he has the Bears selecting Williams number 1 overall. And if he does declare, whether you like it or not, the Bears are going to be linked to him, and they will consider drafting him. They will do their due diligence on him, Drake Maye, Marvin Harrison, whoever else at the top of this draft. Here's what Brugler had to say on the Bears QB outlook. He said, Justin Fields will be under a microscope the final month of the season as the Bears consider their quarterback options. One question that will help them make a decision is this. Is the front office prepared to give Fields an extension with $100+ million in guarantees? I have thoughts on that in a second, so hang on here. Because that is eventually what it will take, he continues. If the answer is no, then Chicago is better off turning the page and reinvesting in the position with a promising rookie on a significantly cheaper deal. I do get what Brugler's saying. Like, yes, if you keep him, eventually you'll have to pay him. Well, if you do pay him that, then you're sold on him as a quarterback, but they don't have to pay him just if they keep him for 2024. They've got him for 2024. They can pick up his fifth-year option for 2025, which would be 20-ish, maybe a little bit more million for that one season. That's not backbreaking at all for a quarterback. And then you could either pay him then or decide to cut him loose. My point is just like this offseason isn't we have to commit to $100+ million to Justin Fields offseason. It's not. You could bring him back for fourth year. Say, hey, Justin, we like you. We're not sold on you as the franchise guy just yet, but you're going to be our starter next year, and we'll see where it goes. You could absolutely do that. What is Justin Fields going to do? Sit out his fourth year of his rookie contract? No. Could he maybe do it his fifth year for the fifth-year option if he were to ball out next season? Perhaps. But, again, if he does ball out at a super high level, if you do keep him, then you're going to be willing to pay him anyway. So I don't really like this notion of, well, if you keep him right now, you're signaling that you're paying him big money. Maybe, but maybe not. Like, you don't have to do that just because the Giants did it last year with Daniel Jones. And by the way, they let that fourth year play out and then paid him. The Bears could play the fourth year out. They could exercise the fifth year option. They've got multiple avenues, so I just do want to remind people of that. More on Caleb Williams and this Brugler mock draft in just a second, but Prize Picks. Get started with daily fantasy from Prize Picks right now. It's DFS made easy, daily fantasy sports made easy. All you got to do is pick 2 to 6 players on your entries, regardless of sport, NFL, college football. I got a 5-player entry for conference championship weekend here. Alan Bowman, the Oklahoma State quarterback, I like the less on his passing yards. I also like the less on Deacon Hill. I know you folks watch Big Ten football. It's a rough scene up at Iowa offensively. Bo Nix, I think he's going to have a big game. Give me the more than on his passing yards, less than on Michael Penix, and then more than on Jalen Milroe as well. You can win up to 25 times your money on an entry. If you do a 6-player entry, 5-player entry is a little bit less there, all the way down to 3 times your money if you just do a 2-player entry, but those are easier to hit. You see how it works, exponential growth. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use our code CLNS. It's an easy way to make money. You can make entries in less than 60 seconds. Dane Brugler once again on Caleb Williams, or on who could be the top pick in this draft. He said, despite Drake Maye being higher in my personal rankings, I still believe Caleb Williams is the favorite to be the top pick. So that's kind of how Brugler does this stuff. So when he releases his big board, he's talking about his personal grades and evaluation. So like when he releases a top 50 big board, that's how he sees it. When he does these mock drafts, he does it based on what he thinks the teams will do. He gets information from these teams. He does his own evaluations. That's why I like Brugler, because he kind of gives you different angles at all this stuff. And look, let's be honest. This draft is going to define Ryan Poles' tenure probably. He traded the number 1 pick last year, which is looking like a pretty good decision, especially if the guy they were going to consider is Bryce Young. That's been a disaster now. If they got C.J. Stroud, it's a different story, but you got D.J. Moore. You got Carolina's first-round pick for this year, second next year. Of course, they still got their first last year, which turned into Darnell Wright. But would he do that again? Would he trade the number 1 pick 2 drafts in a row? And that's going to be the decision. You either keep Justin Fields, keep building around him, or you draft a quarterback. It's pretty darn simple. Of course, if you do keep Justin Fields, then trading down is also an option, or so is drafting Marvin Harrison. Bears fans, what say you? What would you do with the number 1 pick in the draft if you think draft a QB, let us know. How about draft Marvin Harrison Jr.? Or if you would trade down from that selection. Obviously, they don't have that number 1 pick yet, but 57% chance according to ESPN Analytics. All right, let's just finish this mock draft from Brugler since we're on the topic. A lot of Caleb Williams discussion, but now we pivot to Joe Alt, the left tackle out of Notre Dame. Brugler's top 5 went as follows in this mock. Caleb Williams to the Bears at number 1, that pick via Carolina, obviously. Marvin Harrison went 2 to Arizona. Drake Maye 3 to the Patriots. And then the Bears go Joe Alt over Olu Fashanu and some other prospects. And here's what Brugler had to say about the Notre Dame left tackle. He says, this class offers a pair of outstanding tackles, also talking about Olu, who are not only blue-chip prospects, but would also give Chicago a much-needed upgrade at a key position. A standout pass protector and run blocker. Alt has a massive body with coordinated feet and rare recovery skills, which will have him ready to start as a 21-year-old rookie. Joe Alt's a terrific prospect. He really is. So is Olu Fashanu. I think Alt's had the slightly better year this year. I think Fashanu has had a slightly better overall career, but both are great. Pick your poison. They're slightly different prospects, but both are very, very capable. And I really am impressed by Alt's feet and his pass block skills at that size. You got to think that would intrigue Ryan Poles too. But the wild card in all this is Braxton Jones, who's played pretty well this year. On review of watching that Vikings game, he actually played pretty damn well. It looked like early Danielle Hunter was getting him some, but what they were doing was putting Danielle Hunter on Cody Whitehair when he had to come into the game, and he definitely beat him a few times. Braxton Jones more than held his own, has been a really good pass blocker this year, so that's really the decision, and that's why when Dane Brugler says it would be a clear upgrade, well, it better be. To me, if you draft Olu or Alt, it needs to be an obvious upgrade from Braxton Jones at left tackle. Otherwise, you can fill other holes because I don't think left tackle is a hole. Could it improve? Yeah, it could. Braxton Jones was a 5th-round pick. He's a good player. He's not an all-pro, but he's good. He's above average. Like, you can live with him at left tackle, I think, especially with Darnell Wright on the right side. Now, the appeal is if Fashanu or Alt could be a Pro Bowler or, hell, even an all-pro, then you could have 2 anchors on the end there for a decade plus. So that's the potential decision you have to make. And a scenario we're not talking about enough is we keep talking about, well, could trade down from number 1, could trade down from number 1. What if you pick at number 1 and then trade down from your own pick? I think that is very much a possibility as well. So lots and lots of avenues to go when you have 2 high draft picks. Now, which 2 players do you want the Bears to draft in the first round? Of course, we don't know exactly where the 2 picks will be. I do think the Bears have a damn good chance of getting the number 1 pick, but if they keep winning a few games here, their own pick will probably fall a little bit, but still probably in the top 10 at least. Let us know which 2 players you think the Bears should draft in round 1. That's going to do it for today's episode of Chicago Bears Now. My name is Harrison Graham. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications. More videos to come. Bear down.